What's up, everybody? I'm going to take a page out of GMW's book and do a This Day in History in Wrestling. Well, it's been 20 years to the day that we saw Scott Hall come on WCW TV and announce his invasion of WCW from WWE. Now, back 20 or so years ago in 1996, the internet was like just becoming like introduced into households. I didn't have the internet, but a buddy that I knew did. A buddy that I knew his dad had a really successful, was making a really good living, had a really big ass house, had all kinds of cool stuff, gadgets, and I was able to go online on chat rooms whenever I visited his place, and it's funny because there was a chat room that had wrestling fans in it, and this was about a month after. It was about a month after seeing after Scott Hall appeared on WCW, and it was right before Bash at the Beach 1996, right before Hulk Hogan joined Hall and Nash and formed the New World Order. And I remember, like, there were a lot of kids like my age, high school age at the time. I was I was almost 14 years old, and everyone else was like a little bit older, a little bit younger. We were all making predictions about like who the third guy is going to be, and I remember saying, "Oh, I think it's going to be like DDP or something like that, or I think it was going to be like Sting because they haven't really used Sting that well too much lately, or maybe it's Ric Flair, and he's going to like recreate the Horsemen or something like that." And no one really knew at the time. It was and no one knew that, like, even in school, I remember like a lot of kids were talking about it. Oh my god, did you watch Nitro last night? Holy shit. Freaking Razor Ramon was on there and he called himself Scott Hall. I go, what? What are you talking about? And I remember back in those days, I didn't really watch wrestling that much at all. I didn't really like the product in the mid 90s. I watched it here and there, but I was more concerned with watching like stuff on MTV. So yeah, like I remember like there was like videos and stuff on MTV that I liked watching and stuff like that on Monday nights. So it didn't really occur to me that like shit was going down in wrestling. And but yeah, no one knew what the hell was going on. Like I remember everyone in school was like, "Yo, WWE is taking over WCW. You need to watch this shit." I remember a few friends of mine were like that. The kids at my lunch table were talking about that, and I go like, "Man, I don't even watch wrestling anymore, dude." But they kind of convinced me to watch wrestling, and I remember watching Nitro. I think it was like I think it was like a couple weeks after where I think it was the Nitro where it was revealed that Kevin Nash was going to be on the show, and he like choke slammed Eric Bischoff through off the stage. I think it was like a couple weeks after Hall made his appearance, and I was like, "Holy shit! Oh my god, these guys were in WWE like a month or so ago." I mean, yeah, I didn't watch, but I still like, was in the know about what was going on because all my buddies watched wrestling. So I'm like, wow, holy shit, what's gonna happen? And that's when I started watching wrestling a lot. That's when I started watching Raw and switching in between Raw and Nitro to see what was going to happen. And it was when Fake Ramon and Fake Razor and Fake Diesel were still on WWE TV. So I was like, wait a minute, are they working for both companies? But they look different. So it was a great time to be. I don't know. I'm always gonna be very grateful that I grew up in the right kind of era. I mean, that was smack dab in the middle of my adolescence and in the middle of my teenage years. And although there were some rough times at the home, I mean, this when my parents were fighting all the time, and you know, their divorce was impending. I just didn't know who was gonna run out first, you know. But I mean, just the year 1996 in wrestling to me, that's always gonna hold a really, that's gonna hold a, that's gonna hold a place in my heart for sure. And especially watching the stuff on WCW, even ECW. ECW I watched all the time back in the day. I was able to watch it on at 3 a.m. on Sunshine Network, and I just remember I mean when Raven came on, whenever he did promos or whenever he did a match, like no one else was watching. I mean, no one else was up, so I was able to break up at like 3. I'll never forget what I did. I would wake up at 3 in the morning, or whenever I forget. I think I remember. I remember there's one night I was staying up all night, and just because I didn't really, I don't know, I wasn't able to sleep. And I remember putting on. I remember Sunshine Network had a lot of really cool stuff. They had a lot of Florida Marlins and Miami Heat games and Miami Dolphins games and stuff like that. A lot of Florida sports teams were featured on Sunshine Network, and I was kind of a sports fan, but kind of not. I did enjoy the Marlins a lot, just because I wanted to play baseball in my adolescence. But I mean, you know, yeah, I was. I mean, I discovered I was way too short and way too out of shape to play any sports, really. Maybe football or soccer, but you know. But I still enjoyed watching the sports, watching the team. And so, in the midst of them having all their sports stuff, I remember wrestling came on. They had a wrestling show, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? This isn't WCW. This isn't WWE. What is this? And I saw this one dude, and he gave this pose like he was Jesus Christ. And he started saying like these really cool promos, you know, these dark poems that he would recite and everything like that. And this was when he was doing matches against the Sandman. And wow, like I will never forget. There's not a real specific time where he did something. That's why I just have some random picture of Raven uh, in the video. But yeah, man, I was hooked immediately when ECW came on. And I remember like, all right, I'm like, all right, I think it was like 2 something in the morning, something like that. It was ridiculous. It was in the middle of the night because something that bloody and gory, holy shit, that has to be like middle of the night kind of stuff. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I need to wake up every day at I guess, and I didn't know if it was weekly or not weekly, so I would wake up every day at 2 in the morning to see if ECW was on. And if it was, I remember I would sneak to the fridge like a fucking ninja. Like I mean like covert operation here, like some MacGyver shit. And I would get a snack, or I'd make a sandwich or something like that, or I would I would get some cookies or something like that, and get a glass of water or soda or something like that. And I would watch ECW at 2 in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning. And I remember there was like one class where like I didn't need to do anything, so I would sleep in the class, and there was like a method I used. I would like get my notebook and put it in front of me and like sleep in front of the notebook. Oh, it was so hilarious. And those were the days, man. Those were the days. I miss it a lot. I mean, there's not much that I looked forward to when I was a adolescent, but newest video games coming out and new wrestling shows that were still fresh in my mind. That still, you know, I wasn't jaded now like I am now. I didn't know all kinds of stuff about the business, and I was still able to buy into it, and I was still legitimately entertained by wrestling. And that summer of 1996, I remember I caught up on a lot of wrestling. I watched a lot of shit on MTV. Yeah, those were the days, man. And I just wanted to, and you know, since today is that fateful day when Scott Hall came up on ECW, on WCW, and did his "You want a war? Or you gonna get a war?" I'm like, wow, holy shit, So, man, those were the days. And I just wanted to share that, man. I just wanted to share that. So, yeah. Good Mike Work, the guy who kind of does this, and he does it way better than me. I'm just kind of shooting at the hip here, and I'm just, yeah, I'm kind of shooting at the hip here and doing this non unscripted. But he has actual scripts for these this day in history stuff, little podcasts that he does. His channel is going to be in my video description. I'm also subscribed to him. Definitely subscribe to the guy because he says a lot of really cool stuff about wrestling. Uh, I mean, when it comes to commentators of wrestling, of course I watch Brian Alvarez and Vinny. I forget Vinny's last name, but I listen to the Brian and Vinny show. I'm not subscribed to Figure Four Weekly, but you know that shit gets torrented anyways. So I'm like, wow, pay for the shit, fuck that. So I listen to that, and also listen to GMW as well as Off the Rope show and Wrestling with Regret and What Culture. I'm into all those guys. So yeah, so definitely give those guys a follow as well. But specifically, GMW, Good Mike Work. Go ahead and subscribe to him. If GMW ever gets a hold of this podcast slash video whatever, and I heard that he's coming out to WrestleMania 33. I'm planning on going to WrestleMania 33, so it'd be awesome to see him. That'd be really cool. So yeah, that does it for this day in history. Hope I didn't steal GMW's thunder too bad when doing this. And I will catch you all later. Peace.